All right. It's a beautiful day. It is a beautiful day. Thank you everyone for joining Nice and Helly. Like I always start, this is the disciplined agile meetup where we show up every single month to bring amazing topics to the community, to the disciplined agile community. We are growing and then we are also making good faith. I want to say thank you to every single one of you that have made it a point of duty to join us every single month to be part of this community. But right in the chat, I can see quite a number of people joining us as usual from all over the globe. First of all, Emeka from Nigeria, thank you for joining Nice and Heli. Salimati from Accra, Ghana, thank you so much. Akin for BC, Canada, thank you. Anthony from Port Harcourt, Nigeria. We've got Chitola from Zambia. We've got Shiru from Port Harcourt. We've got, Samuel from Nigeria. We've got Bogali from Ethiopia. Raphael from Ghana. We have Mary Mike from Scotland. We have Yassini from Zambia. Joanna from DLC. Oh, thank you for joining. Jean from Cameroon and Lugano from Malawi. I can go on and on and on and on. Of course, we have Ni, Engineer Ntari from Rwanda as well joining us. Darius from Kenya. We've got Alphonsine from Kigali. Bambela from Uganda. Like I said, I can keep on going and going and going and going from my people, you know, from all over the globe, from Ghana. Emmanuel, thank you. David from Moscow. Oh, thank you so much from joining us early. Now I'll come back to that, but just by way of introduction, to introduce why we are here, so that we can give our speaker, Mary, a good opportunity to really share what she has got for us today. And keep it coming in the chat. I see you. We read everything, every comment. We'll respond as much as we can. And thank you so much for joining. So I guess we are going to start with why. I believe I've got Precious here to help us start with why,
Yep.
to introduce the Adam community to you. And I will hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Disciplined Agile Meetup. Before we begin today's session, I'd like to briefly share who we are and why we are here. We are a dynamic community championing the true value of project management, leadership, emerging technologies, lean and agile practices. Our mission is to empower professionals and organizations across Africa who want to strengthen their capabilities in agile and lean frameworks and translate them into measurable results. We actively promote continuous knowledge transfer in project management, leadership, emerging technologies, lean startup, and other lean agile practices. Our focus areas are agile, project management, and technology innovation. Today's meetup is proudly brought to you by our partners, PMI and Pete Lauren Consulting. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Precious. That was really cool. That was really direct and straight to the point. So you know who we are. Pete Lauren Consulting is a authorized training partner for your training needs. Reach out to us, and we will be able to support you. Um, in order to go ahead, we would like to introduce our speaker to you. We will talk about the cost of silence, calculating the ROI of difficult conversation. And no other person to bring that to us than Louise. Louise, I believe you are here to introduce our speaker today.
Yes, thank you, Pet, and thank you, Precious, for this introduction. I'm Louis Siwaman from Rwanda, and I would like to introduce Mary Michael, who is a Pioneer graduate of Management Information System. She has also a master's degree in ICT, in Information Technology Cyber Security from University of Glasgow. as a senior project manager with over than 15 years in a professional, and she is a Black professional UK ambassador, currently working in NHS Scotland, supporting health technology assessment projects. Mary is equipped with agile project management, stakeholder engagement and management, team building, training, and facilitating skills. Mary, in her leisure time, curates family day outing and social events, which have become quite popular with her network. She enjoys traveling, networking, attending conference, and building speaker. Gentlemen and participants, just join me in welcome Mary Michael for this wonderful presentation. Thank you very well.
Thank you, Louise. That's Mary. Yeah. Just to add to what Louis has mentioned, and thank you, Louis, for really doing a very amazing job on that. Uh, Mary is one of my brain trusts. Is someone I can call out of blues to give me some ideas about certain matters. So we are quite lucky to have Mary presenting to us today. It is by no means it's going to be a great session. Um, so, Mary, I will hand over to you for your session so that we can hear from you. Thank you for joining us.
Wow. Thank you so much, Pete, and everybody else for having me today. Thank you for this platform. I've been a guest, I mean, not a guest, I've been an attendee several times over the last 2 years or so when Pete and I met. Was it the Kenya PMI conference? Yeah. And I think I've become a member of this community. So it's actually an honor to be on the other side of the table today. So thank you very much. But I must say, guys, I'm really impressed. Like, are you guys not watching World Cup or something? Because my son was asking me just, earlier this evening, he was like, Mommy, are you sure people are going to attend that webinar? The match starts at 8. And I'm like, well, we'll see. But honestly, I must say, I am really impressed. This is as a 8:05, and we have over 100 people on the call. So well done. So I would then say, okay, so I'm based in Scotland, so naturally you want to assume that I'm supporting England, right? But I would like to know, which team are people rooting for, for this for the win tonight. So let's engage in the chat box while I bring up my slide. Oh, I see someone said I'm watching while listening to you. My son said that's what's going to be happening. So but I do hope that you still get the best, out of this session. So give me a moment while I share my
Oh my
slides.
God. Someone is supporting Team Messi. England, Argentina. We have a split in the chat. Quite a lot of England, a lot of Argentina. And for Tokwe, who is supporting Team Mercy. All right. All the best. So I would say let the best team win or better team. Let the better team win.
Okay, all right. We'll maybe I don't think the match will be over by the time we are done, but hopefully there will be a clear picture of who is gonna win, and then we can have another debate about that. Okay, so back to the business of the day. I've been asked to talk about the cost of silence. Why do we need to have these difficult conversations? I'm privileged to have worked in project management for at least over 15 years now, with a brief, stint in risk management at some point. But I think my love for project management overshadowed that, and I had to come running back, to my first love. So I must say, it's been a journey. And on this kind of journey, you meet different people, along the way, from different, aspects of life, different ethnicity, different backgrounds. And if you will agree with me that one of discord and conflict, you cannot run away from it. It tends to happen with every team. But then the big question is, how do you handle it? Do you sweep it under the rug? Do you let it grow? Do you let, how do you handle it in such a way that you can still get the best, out of your team? And that's a discussion we're about to have tonight. And I'm sure most of the things I'm probably going to say is not going to be new to most of us, but maybe from this conversation, you have new insights to take back with you to say, okay, I can do this better within my team. I can promote this better within my team. And I'm hoping that by the end of the next couple of minutes, you have something to, to take away with you. So let's go right in. And this is some of the discussion points that we're going to be looking at this night. All right. So can I ask in the chat for people if like I said, I'm sure we've all, faced conflict at some point in our project team. So I want to know in the chat. I'm not going to be able to look, but hoping Pete, someone from the team can help me here. I'm going to be talking about some of this, but in the chat, I would love to see what have people experienced, during the course, of your career up until this point in terms of conflict. And, and some of the things I've put out here will probably have we will have experienced it by some of us. We talk about communication. I tell people project management is 99.9% communication. Take it or leave it. Any seasoned project manager, would know that, because all you're doing is communicating. If you're not communicating with your stakeholders, you're communicating with your project team, you're communicating with your vendors, you're communicating with your team leads, or functional leads, or just in many ways, so poor communication tends to be one of the biggest things that causes conflict within project teams. Then talk about unclear roles and responsibilities. It's very easy to get some of this kind of thing wrong, especially when you're working in large teams. So when from the beginning, there's no clear-cut rules about who does what or who is responsible for what, it tends to breed conflict within teams. Then of course you have competing priorities, especially when you worked in a bank like mine, where I started my project management career from, and within the same PMO department, you're trying to deliver like 10 IT projects at the same time with the same people, with the same staff. Definitely competing priorities, it's gonna come in and creep in at some point, and you start wondering, okay, which project can take a backseat, which one do we need to rush through quickly, so that definitely does happen. Then talk about personal differences from day one. I have one of my bosses on the call tonight, so and I remember back when we were starting out when we were starting out in those days, we had people projects from everywhere. We had people from, we've worked with Indians, we've worked with Americans, we've worked with name it. I've probably worked with at least someone from every continent in this world. So all of those differences tend to also play up at some point during your meetings or in the project team. So and over time, if you do not understand or accommodate cultural differences or people differences, you tend to have those things leading to issues within the team. And of course, resource constraints. For project teams, money is never enough. Money in terms of financial resources, but of course we have other resources that we can speak to, but we know that those things, they always come in short supply. So how do you overcome the need to allow those things to cause issues within the team or with the work that you're doing. And of course, the biggest elephant in the room, resistance to change. So imagine you've spent how many months? You spent 9 months to to work through an IT project, and then at the time of when it comes to what's that thing that we do? Is it user training? UAT, yeah, UAT, users acceptance training, and then you start hearing, but they didn't tell us they were going to do this, but they didn't tell us what was going to happen. Nobody informed us about this, and you're like, please, what have you spent the last 9 months working on? And you have to start dealing with those bottlenecks, bringing in emotional intelligence, to get people to, adapt to change. So these are some of the common conflicts, that can these are some of the common things that can raise issues within
Before you go
the team.
ahead, there are quite a number of comments in the chat as well. So while you're trying to go, I just thought maybe you want me to read some of them. If you let me know, otherwise I can.
Yes, please do.
All right, yeah. So Ebenezer mentioned poor communications, which you mentioned is a conflict inducer, tight deadlines from outweighing conflict of interest. We've got communications that's come up a couple of times. Oh, Mark made mention of something, personal differences when a team member tends to lord over others, you know, resistance to change. Okay. We have carrying end users along or lack of carrying end users along.
Yeah.
These are some of the themes that came up during the time you were presenting. So, in addition to those six end users that you had on the screen, these are other themes that came up during those times.
All right, thank you, everyone. I went off the share screen just to be able to see some of those comments. So thanks, Pete, for repeating that to us. Okay, so what's my way of helping us to address some of those things? And it will be interesting. Fun fact about me: my middle name is ALAFIA, those spelled with a single A. But over the years, when I found out that the real Yoruba way of spelling Alafia was with a double A in the middle, I adopted that instead. And that language in Nigeria, for I know we're ethnicity on this call, it signifies peace, signifies well-being, signifies a state of balance, across almost every dynamics in which the name is used. And I've just been so over the years, having been in this profession for so long, I was like, okay, if there was an area of project management where I would love to specialize in, or to concentrate my effort, I haven't spent all this years, what will it be? And that name keeps calling out to me, and I was like, you can peace, conflict resolution, because it's something I've had to deal with a lot, both home and abroad. And after a lot of research, I was able to come up with a peace and performance model, which I think with an honest adaptation can really help teams to foster a good working relationships. And that is what I'm going to spend the next few minutes taking us through this model. So come along with me. So again, this does not necessarily mean that, or let me start by saying this way: there's never going to be absence of conflicts. There will always be conflict, but the question is, do you want it to lead to a permanent damage, or you want to find a way to walk through it and come out stronger on the other side? Because you're always going to meet different people. There will always be different topics. There will always be people who want things done in a different way. But then, how do you work together to bring the best out of everyone? How do you make sure that how do you make sure that you achieve the objectives that you set out to do, as a team, and even for the bigger stakeholders. So this is what this model is all about. It does not eliminate, it does not say that there's going to be absence of conflict, but is more like a process that helps you channel yourself through when conflict does arise. How do you manage it? How do you walk through it to arrive, on the other side? And so the model helps us to prevent damage and to bring out the best in each other. And you agree with me that people do perform better when conflict is eliminated or when it is tackled early, because it is when it is left to fester and grow, that's when we really see, we see bad performance, in people. So what is ALAFIA? It's a framework of 7 connected practices that creates the conditions for stronger relationships, better decisions, and of course sustained results. Because at the end of the day, what do you want with the results? You want to make sure that they are sustainable, they are transitionable, and they contribute to growth. Not discarded at the end of the day after doing all of that work, and it ends up in the bin. And this is the framework in a nutshell. And in the next few minutes, we're going to be breaking each of this down into as we talk about it. So 7 practices, 1 mindset that helps us to work better together. Okay, and the first letter A, speaks to alignment. And what does this mean? We know that at the beginning at every kickoff meeting, everybody wants to know, okay, what exactly are we doing here? Why are we at this kickoff meeting? What are we here to do? And it's your opportunity to make sure that everybody that has been selected to be part of the team understands what the purpose is, and everybody is on the same page. Not somebody coming and thinking, oh, we are here to build a SOC center, but another person is thinking, oh no, we just want to develop some capacity within the team and maybe outsource it later on. So you have to make sure that everybody in the room understands, the shared purpose, why you're there. And you need to make sure that there's clarity of roles, responsibilities, and of course the decision authorities. Who is doing what type of work streams are you going to be having? Where does everyone fit? What is each person going to be doing? In the team. You don't want a situation where I tend to switch into Yoruba slangs when I'm presenting. I was about to say fisi, but you want to make sure that nobody overbears a burden in terms of work, that work is distributed evenly, amongst the team. And even as the team or as the work evolves, you need to make sure that you constantly revisit and realign as the project evolves. Because one thing, one of my late dad's favorite statement was that change is the only permanent thing in life. So things will always happen that will cause you to revisit the reason why you're in that room in the first place. So if that changes, or if the project evolves, or is it in this day of AI where the rapidity of change is so amazing. We thought when we got the internet that change has come, but now it's the change, the rate of change is almost times 100. So you need to be able to revisit and realign regularly as your project evolves. Okay, 8:25. I hope I'm doing well with time, Pete.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. Just go ahead. We will keep you aligned.
All right. Okay, and the second letter talks about listening. I like this one so much because, see, guys, we're Africans, and one of the things that we like to do is we like to talk, and a lot of time what you see is that everybody wants to talk at the same time. Nobody wants to listen. But guys, we need to stop and listen. And there is no voice that should not or cannot be heard if you really want to have the best, from your team. And you need to form the habit of listening before responding, and listening with no interruptions. Keyword there, no interruption. I think I should have underline that statement, no interruptions, because it's something that, we all like to do. I do it too. I'm not innocent, but over the years I've trained, I've constantly train myself and remind myself, listen first, hear the person out, give everybody a chance to talk in the room, at the table. Listen to even your based on, even within your governance structure that I set up in the room. Do not, when you have those either your sprint meetings or your catch-up meetings or whatever it is, give everybody a chance to talk and be heard. And then when you do hear, reflect on what they're saying. Always try to separate people from ideas, from egos. I've dealt with situations of ego before, from people that are well above my seniors, but I needed them both at the table, so egos will always play out. So that's almost a given. But then sometimes even within that, you need to be able to listen to what's the bigger picture here. What is this person actually trying to say? And you try to make sure that you don't focus on the person, but rather focus on what they are trying to bring to the table, because everybody needs everybody needs a chance to be heard and to be understood. And in case what you've heard is not clear, then you go back and you have to, okay, can you clarify? Oh my goodness, I remember my first few years in Scotland. Almost I was like, please can you repeat yourself, I never get tired of saying it, because you know that there's a very distinct accent between the Scottish and the English people, so it's if you're unclear, ask again until you're on the same page, with the person or with the people you're trying to hear. So never get tired of listening. The reason why a lot of us do not listen well is because we are always in a hurry to go on to the next best thing. You're always in a hurry to move on to the next. Maybe it's a project manager that, or is a project manager that has like 5-6 projects under him that is managing. He wants to go. Is eager to finish this meeting and move on. But no, you need to take a pause. And give that time to listen and reflect on what people are saying, so that you can create a safe space for everyone, and to be sure that they are heard and understood. Okay. Okay, and we're on to the third letter, which is hey. It's accountability. For in every team, there must be a task owner. When you're creating your work, the terms and principles that we use: work breakdown structure, this task, that this deliverable, and all of that. Who owns what? So for there to be accountability, there must be ownership. Everyone must know, what am I here in this room to do? What is my deliverable? What has been asked of me? What is my role here? Because when people somebody once upon a time, I think one of my early bosses at the time, I think he was the one that defined the word assume for me, and the definition of assume that goes like this: ask so that you do not make an ass of yourself. You do not need to assume. Not within a project team, everything has to be transparent. There is no need to leave room for assumption, because it is in assumptions that conflict thrive. When people are not clear, that is when they assume. But when there's transparency in the task to be delivered, transparency in the in decision making, transparency in authority, and when there is no room for assumption, when there is clarity, then peace will improve. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Everybody hones their tasks and delivers it end to end. And then when there are issues, they have the confidence to raise issues early and escalate when necessary for timely resolution. Because it is when accountability is missing, it is when assumption thrives, or when responsibility is not visible, or people don't know who is doing what. That's when you start to see a lot of issues. But so making people accountable for what is expected of them, excuse me please, making them accountable for what is expected of them helps to foster peace within the team, and helps helps everybody to work better together. Okay, we'll move on to the second A, which is adaptability. I think I've kind of mentioned a bit of that at the beginning. Change again is the only constant thing in life. If someone had told me what now 7-10 years ago that I'll be in this side of the world, I'll probably say I beg Jerry shift, because actually I was rooting for Canada. I never knew, but this is me. I'm in Scotland today, but yeah, so being able to adapt, being able to move with the time, being able to to adjust, it's very key within teams. I mentioned AI earlier. I know that this community, for instance, what is at the center of this community is agility, is being able to, and what is agility? Being able to adapt, being able to move with the times. So we are no longer in the era where we have rigid project teams. We're no longer in the era where everything is done, the waterfall model. No, that era I think is almost is dead and buried, because now you need to be, there's new information, new times, new change every day. So how do you adapt your team? How do you make sure that you can adjust without blaming anyone? The moment once the team is a safe space, what it just means is that the minute anybody notices any change, they can safely bring it to the conversation. They can safely bring it to the table without getting blamed for anything, and it also adaptability also creates the room to be able to learn fast and improve, continuously. I remember, back then, one of the departments we had back then that usually work closely with us in the project management office then was continuous improvement department. Like, we actually had a department in the bank, continuous improvement department. And what is their role? To keep searching, to keep checking, okay, what are the things that we can continuously, that to do, to improve upon. And it just means that even as they identify those things, we get to work together, in the project team to, immediately adapt some of those changes into the projects that are going on. So in a project, you need to stay open as project managers, as whether you're upcoming, whether you're already a seasoned project manager, or you're a portfolio manager, because I'm sure I've got some big wigs in the room. You need to be able to stay open to change and new information, and make sure but there's no need to play the blame game. Just listen with an intention to understand, and and look at the things that you can adapt and immediately change within the structure of the team, to make sure that you continue to work as an adaptive team with trust. I'm going to pause here and just check that if you're still following, if your attention has not been divided by the match, can you put a 2 in the chat box? Oh, okay. I see a lot of twos, so I take it that people are do following and not distracted by the match. So well done, everyone. Thank you so much for keeping your attention here. Because don't worry, I'll release you soon so we can all get back to the to the match. Oh wow, double two. Okay. All right, that's interesting. Thank you all so much. Thank you for that feedback. I really do appreciate it, and thank you for staying with me. Well, we're almost there. We're in the is this the fifth letter now? So, and talking about F speaks to fairness. I recently took a course in the office that was trying to talk about equality, equity, and diversity, and it made me understand that equality, that as we know the word, it does not mean the same as equity, because what defines equality for you, assuming I have a team that has people from Canada, like Pete is 5 a.m. in Australia at the moment. It's 8 p.m. here in the UK. It's probably British Columbia. I'm not sure what the time is there right now, but I think we're about, is it 4 hours? So you probably be like early evening or something. So it's being able to find the balance. So what is that thing that works best across, for everybody, that makes sure that everybody has, there is no perceived unfairness in the room. Because see, when people perceive that some people get the priority, or I think there's a word we use for it, is it favoritism, right? When people feel, oh, this person is a favorite member of the team, or is a favored project team member, or he always gets everything he asks for, oh, he always has emergency, he always needs to be away, they always give him time off, but we were always working, even weekends, Saturday, we are always in. When people start to sense unfairness within the team, trust me, that is a word that is waiting to happen, in front. So you need to make sure that as a PM, as a PO, in whatever project role that you have, or whatever role you have in a team, that there is fairness in the room, that there is no sense of perceived unfairness amongst your team. Everybody has access to information. There's no information hiding. Why are you even hiding information in the first place? Although I must confess that sometimes situations don't work, because I had an issue recently in one of my projects where somebody was not delivering. In fact, let me speak to that, because it was more a way to get the person, to actually work. So we had this member of the team, she wasn't, the person wasn't delivering to time, and we needed to get to a milestone where we can take this report forward. But lucky for us, our sponsors increased our delivery timeline, so we had like extra few weeks to play around with. But because this person was already overdue by like 4 weeks or there, we were like, okay, we're not going to tell this person that we have new time, so that we can get what we want from the person, so that we can actually move. Because if we are told that, okay, we have this new time, that we've been waiting like almost 6 months, we are still not going to get it, and we need to get this thing out. So sometimes, it's called emotional intelligence, right? It's called, being able to, what now? Get the best results, the outcome, based on the team member you're working with. So I had to do that with one of my lucky, it was my boss my boss in the team. He actually agreed that, okay, let's not tell her, so that we can get this deliverable from her, and then we'll work that into the timelines. Okay, that's that. So you may have some situations that will arise, and you're like, okay, let's just hold on to this information for now. But most of the time, try to make sure that everybody has access to the same information at all the time, especially when everybody is working on the same page, when everybody is aligned, when everybody knows that, okay, we are all, we are all on the same page. There's no sense of discord, there's no sense of unfairness. Make sure that people have access to the same level of information to help them to do their work. Make sure that there's transparent prioritization decisions. When you're making decisions, when something has changed at the top, do not delay. Do not leave people to assume that change is coming or this is coming. Just disseminate the information as soon as you can to the team that are working, especially if it's going to affect any dynamism in the way they work or in the structure in which they're currently working in. So it's best that is communicated early to them. And I also mentioned equality is not equity. Make sure that there's equity, respect and equity across all the different roles. There's no one good thing I love about this job is I love being in, not the job. One good thing I love about this career is that you get to work across different ages, across different cultures, across different the diversity I've experienced in this career. It's been so massive, and I'm constantly grateful to it because it's taught me a lot about respect, being fair and being accommodating to people. So making sure that everybody has access to the same thing across all the different roles. So there's no, I know we do a lot of sir, oga boss, chairman, where I come from. But even beyond all of that is being able to bring all, work with all of that to make sure that you're still, the respect and the equity is still visible and felt across, your different teams. Okay. All right, we're almost there. So integrity. Wow, I cannot flog this enough. We all know that when it comes to integrity, when it comes to honesty, the moment people feel like somebody somewhere is being untruthful in terms of the work, in terms of the deliverables, in terms of the resources, the availability of resources, either financially, materially, it is a breeding ground for conflict amongst them. So and I think I'm not wrong to say here is when you say this, you actually have to mean this. Don't say this as a boss, as a don't say this as a project. Don't say something as a project manager and then go back and agree something else with maybe your sponsor or one of the other stakeholders. Make sure that whatever you're speaking to your team, whatever communication is coming from whatever has been decided from your project sponsors to your from your steering group, everybody is on the same page, and help people to follow through on commitments. And if there is any reason why somebody is failing on their commitment, you need to make sure that is addressed early. Issues will always arise, as I've said severally, in the early part of this presentation. But the question is, how are you addressing it? It's not about it's not about sweeping things away or assuming that they will resolve themselves on their own. No, it's to address it with bravery, with courage. When you adapt all of those things and actually infuse it into the way you work, you see that you will have the courage to actually speak up when those things do happen. You will be brave to say, okay, this has happened, but how do we move forward from here? How do we address it? Rather than keeping quiet about it and just assume that it will take care of itself. So we need to learn to speak honestly and respectfully, at all times, within our different project teams and project environments. Okay, and finally, to the last letter, action. Please tell me, what is all of this without putting it into action? You must make sure that in everything. I'm a stickler for please, one of my favorite sentences at the end of any meeting is, what are our next steps? What are our next steps? Who is running and who is doing what? You must be able to, in every of your, as you walk through this process, what are the things that have been agreed and who is supposed to do what. You must always learn to document your decisions, and tease out the next steps. Don't leave it to assumptions, or don't assume that somebody is leaving this room or leaving this table knowing what they need to do. No, let's spell it out. Let's be clear that this is what is expected of you, and this is when you need to do it, and this is when it needs to be delivered it by. And if for any reason those outcomes do not come out when they're supposed to, okay, what are we doing to address it, and how are we moving forward from it? You cannot leave things unresolved. You can, because not resolving things is what creates friction amongst teams, is what creates friction in working relationships. So you must make sure that decisions that have been made at project team meetings, at stand-up meetings, at catch-up meetings, at project updates, are documented, and it has owners, it has deadlines or timelines, as I prefer to always call them, and there's a chance to review those results and those outcomes. So the closing statement here says, unresolved discussions creates friction, and I'm sure most of you will agree with me, because nobody is doing anything about it, because nobody is doing anything about those issues. That is why you have frictions in the team. So somebody, I'm hoping every project manager in this room will leave this meeting knowing that, okay, I have the utmost responsibility and accountability to make sure that we do something about it, that is these issues are acted upon, and and resolutions is achieved to move forward. Okay, and that has taken us nicely through the principles themselves. But how you may then want to ask, how does these 7 principles that we've mentioned, how does it all work together? How does it come together? Because none of it works in silos. They are there to complement each other. You will see that as I've gone through it, there are principles that you can take as a team and build. You can focus on one at a time and build it as you go along, or as you develop your project team. And one strength in one area amplifies the other. And you can see that these principles, they are people centered, because in project managers, we don't have work if we don't have people. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, or rather, what is our work without people? Because at the end of the day, it's people that we're working with, it's people that we're dealing with, it's people that we're managing, even beyond the work, because it's people that is doing the work that we're managing. And that's why these principles are centered on the people that we're working with. And working these principles together is going to help us to build high performing, human-centered teams. So is this where I take question? Okay, so all right, okay, I think I've got a few examples here about how you can actually use it in practice. So maybe after the slide, Pete, we can actually stop and take some thoughts or feedback. So yeah, you can use it during your kickoff meeting and ask questions like, oh, okay, which of the letters do we need most right now as you're forming your team? Is it to have accountability? Is it to make sure that this team that we are forming, we're easily adaptable, or to make sure that everybody, that is sitting at the table, has a sense, feels that, this project or this work is even fair in the first place? Because I know so many projects that, somebody happens a lot, within the industry I started off from. Some projects are like some people's baby projects. There's really no need for that project, but because it's probably their own vision, the moment they are leaving the bank or the industry, maybe they've done 2-3 years, you see that project ends or dies with them. So you really need to be, okay, are we all on the same page? Is this really what we should be doing now? So you can use each of the letters of these principles to actually tease out, feedback, or get insights, from the team that you're forming. And then of course, when conflict does arise, then you can use the principle or the framework, to diagnose what the issue is, to get to the root cause. Maybe it's integrity that is missing, or maybe somebody feels, that there's an absence of accountability, or somebody feels unclear about roles and responsibility. So you can use the framework to tease out, what the exact issues are amongst your team. And then of course, during your retrospectives, I know that's something you agile managers, you do a lot. So you can decide to rate, okay, amongst all of this, which one, on a scale of 1 to 5, which one are we good at, which one, where, rate it, and then decide, okay, how are we doing with this, or what can we do to improve on this. And based on the outcome, like, there's something every time every time we do our directorate audit, there's always something they call a pulse survey. It's just to check, what are people feeling, and they ask the same question all the time for the past 2 years that we started doing those audits. And I see the sense in it, because when you ask the same questions, over a period of time, it helps you to know whether you are achieving growth, in an area or not. So that, because until you achieve a sense of growth, you do not actually feel that you're improving or doing well. And remember, we talked about continuous improvement at some point. So how do you actually improve when you don't even know, where to improve upon? So I think, it's also a framework that can easily be adapted into our retrospective meetings, and for teams to be able to work out, okay, where do we need to focus on, how can we grow together as a team, or which of these principles do we need to improve upon as a team to reduce conflict, or to work together, or bring out the best working relationship in each of us. So all right, so my takeaway for you today is to try, Pete, I don't know, but I'm sure I think you do normally send out the slides and all that, but find a way to embed this into your. It's a process, is a performance, is a process and performance model, meaning that it's not something that is casting. So it's something that you're supposed to use and evolve with as your team is building, as your team is evolving, and so it's more or less like a journey. It's not something that you say, oh, you do today, oh, we have achieved integrity today. No, it's something that you keep evaluating and evolving with at every step and every point of your project management journey, and within your team. So okay, before I come to this, I think I'm going to pause here, Pete, and ask for questions. Sorry, I'm going to have to
All
stop
right,
this share.
beautiful,
And
beautiful, Mary. Thank you so much for bringing this to us. What I like about your presentation is today is you make it so relatable, and you make it like a discussion session with all of us. And this is what we talk about. This is what we talk about, guys. Mary has been a member of a community for quite a number of time. That means we also look inward and bring people within the community to share very good information on how they have been able to apply some of these ideas that they use in their work to us. And you have done justice to that right now. So for us, I just will still say if you have questions, there is still time to bring it up. But there are a couple and a lot of discussions that were going on during your presentation that I took note of, things that has to do with certain locations where we are at, and a few other things. For example, Zachariah did mention that in Africa, team members don't trust the management, and the management don't trust team members because of resources, transparency, corruptions that lead to serious tensions and conflict within organizations, making these webinar very important to share to leadership of local organizations. I think that is phenomenal because we can see that the presentation does not really speak to people that get their hands dirty alone. It also speaks to leaders as well. All right. And I like the ALAFIA acronym that you bring in. I just love it. Now, if I based on what Zachariah mentioned, Mary, do you have anything to say? How can we really improve the trust level between team members and management? And of course, I've got quite a number senior people here that can also support you just to bring these up. Maybe I can get Patrick to support at some point, but let me hear from you, Mary.
Okay. One of the reasons why I think I I so much in love with this framework is because it's not restrictive. It's not restrictive to project teams. It's not restrictive to it's only for leaders. No, it's I wanted something that everybody can relate with, and I think you will agree with me that when leaders come, they say something and then go right ahead to do something else. It's it's the it's the highest level of mistrust that anybody can experience, whether within an organization, within a team, and all that. So I think leaders need to mean what they say and actually do what they say, not within the space in which we work. Though we try not to be politicians, because politicians are the ones that have the title of, they say one thing and then do something else. We're not politicians. We are implementers. We are there's a word I'm looking for. We are action people. We deliver. We when we take on a project, when you take on a project as a project management, for instance, your goal is to deliver that project, but not just deliver it, but to deliver it successfully. So you're not taking it on to do something else. You're taking it on to be seen as trustworthy, that okay, I've taken on this assignment and I can do it with the people that I'm gonna work with. That's your goal. So leaders need to mean what they say and actually follow through what they say with action. So when issues do arise, like maybe issues with budgets or resource constraints and all that, and you take these issues to them, as a PM, I expect them to work together with you to come up with solutions, things that can take the bottlenecks away. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoyed in my early days of working, back then when I started as a project analyst. Is seeing see project sponsors actually support the project managers to remove bottlenecks. And when you see that kind of relationships happening within teams or within the organization, it will foster trust. It will foster a good working relationship, knowing that okay, I have the backing of my project sponsors here, I have the backing of management here, I have the backing of leaders. So trust is eroded when leaders say something and then go right back to do something else. So I believe any of these principles, if truly adopted, by both leaders and by both team members, can foster trust, amongst the people. So that's what I'll say. So I don't
Thank
know
you.
if
Yeah. Not sure, Patrick, do you have anything to add to the one? I think Mary did a very good justice to that.
She said it right, but the
Yeah.
key to that is open communication.
Yeah.
If your team members see that you're open, honest, and transparent, there's likely the environment to build trust between them.
Mm.
So it means you take the brunt of anything that goes sideways, but you put it out there, and even when it's wrong, you put it out to the team and let them understand it, and everybody moves on. But if you start to have side conversations with team members, then there can never be any trust within that team.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for your contribution on that one. Yeah, like I said, there are quite a number of comments that we can't actually go through every one of them now, but really good conversation, really good engagement in the session during the delivery. So well done to everyone. I will say one more thing, and then we go straight into the next action, which is Adam did mention something about transparency because you mentioned something around that. Adam said, I believe in transparency. However, I have a concern with equal access to information, especially in an organization saddled with different levels of authority. And we got Patrick responded with a very good response to say equal access refers to what can be shared. Access is usually based on the levels within the organization, which means if you have a need for certain level of information, it should be shared with you. If that level of information is not needed because of a hierarchy in the organization, you have no business with it. It's not that they are holding information from you. It's not that they are not transparent. It's just that that information is not required at your level. And then, of course, from there on, conversation went on and went on. I just thought I was going to mention that to the team to say we see most of these conversation in the chat, and then we'll bring it back. Now, I'm just going to open for one more. I think I've seen Emeka's hand up. We're going to take it from you, and then we will go to the next section because of time. Emeka, do you have a question?
Okay, no, it's not a question. It's more like a comment. There are certain situations where this restriction of information kind of limits certain individuals who want to do more than what you've assigned to them, or not have the relevant information to perform optimally on their roles. There's this certain discussion that goes on that if you want to make a manager useless, restrict information from him. So I think as we go on in our different endeavors, we need to, as much as possible, provide the necessary information to our teams, as much as possible, as long as it's not confidential information. You'll be shocked that that's where you get different ideas from people who can even make relevant changes to whatever objective you are trying to achieve. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Emeka. That's really spot on. And I like the word that you use. I was going to comment with that word, confidentiality. All right, is very important. So there are principles within organizations that we adopt when it comes to sharing information, right? The confidentiality of information to safeguard what the organization, for example, needs to share and for which a particular role needs to have. All right. So far, that is clearly defined. Whatever people need in the organization or within their roles should be made available to them. If they don't have it, they will not be able to perform at their optimal. That is a given. That is the truth. And that is what we see when we see people underperform because of information hoarding. All right, and of course, that leads to conflict, and that's what we are trying to avoid. Now, one thing that we're taking away is that the cost of really not having those conversations is high. All right, it is inestimable. If it if it's caught right on time, what happen is yes, remedy comes. If it is not caught, it can lead to problems. And when I say problems, I mean massive, massive problems in projects and in programs. So I think this is where we're going to stop. But I think Mary, you still want to talk about this commitment, right? Quickly.
Yeah, just a little assignment. I'm a
Okay.
person. I mentioned action at the end, so I think I cannot leave you home without giving you an action to take away, from the conversation today. So I just want, in your own private space, in your reflection moment, as you go back, to think about what you've heard tonight. I want you to take just one letter, of the principle and ask and tell you, okay, what action are you going to take this week to strengthen um Alafia in your work or within your team or within your community. Just pick one and focus on it, and tell yourself, write it out. How are you going to do it, and what difference do you think is going to make, within your team? And I'm hoping that as you do that, and as you do that and go back to it and do it over and over again, you will start to build conflict-free environments for yourself, for your work, and for the team. So, and that is me. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so, so much, Mary. This is
Sure.
really good. Like I said, I like the fact that you share this with us, the framework. It brings peace, to be honest. ALAFIA. So I'm at peace right now, and I believe everybody else is at peace. You can see the thumbs up, you can see the love, you can see the thank yous in the chat. So thank you for bring these to us. Now, as we go ahead to complete our session today, let me quickly share a few other things with us.
Quick,
Um,
quick question.
Everybody who has been here today, we want to say thank you for joining us. We want to say thank you so much for joining us. I believe you can see my screen just to check. Can you?
Yep.
All right, beautiful. Let's go ahead. All right, so a couple of people have been asking about the PDU codes. This is a PDU code on the screen. Please take a screenshot of that and you can claim it at your convenience, right? You can claim it. And of course, someone within my team will definitely drop it in the chat as well. Drop it in the chat as well. So this will give you 1.5 PDUs for the 1.5 hours we are spent together just before we start recording and even after we are recording. Now, there has been a couple of thank yous to you, Mary. So I want to say thank you so much for really, really bringing this session to us today. It's
Quick,
really relatable, really
quick
relatable.
question. Quick question for
Yes,
Mary. A
yes.
few people have tried to inquire about the model. Is she going to probably, send them I guess, a PDF of that model itself, so some of them can,
All
you know,
right. Yeah.
utilize it and have it handy?
Yes, I'll chat with Mary. Mary, if you want, I can send it across to the community in the email that will come after. We will send these to the participant of today. Mary, just to confirm with you if that is okay by you to send the
Yes,
PDF.
definitely. Yeah, that's fine, Pete.
All right, Pete. Thank you so much, Patrick, for raising that question. Um, So, in addition to the link to the video and the YouTube channel, we will definitely add the PDF to you so they can have this framework for use, and you can put it in front of you to remind you to go through the framework in your daily endeavors. All right, cool. Um, Next month, we're going to have another very great session. Our speaker is a very good speaker. We will talk more about it. You will receive more information about the next session from Palak very, very soon. It's going to be an amazing time as well. All right, beautiful. So thank you so much. I can see the PDU code in the chat for those people that would love to claim that. All right. So one of the things we also preach is that we connect with each other. I have not been sharing these for a long while, but I made it a point of duty, to start sharing, that connection request. So this is my LinkedIn profile. Connect with me, all right, so that we can take the conversation forward, all right. I will drop the link even in the chat so that we can connect with each other. Let's have a discussion beyond meeting once a month over here. So I look forward to connecting with you. Um, thank you. And one last thing, just before we go, I would love to bring Adebowale to close the session for us if she's online. And I can see quite a number of people are sharing their connection requests as well. Let's connect with each other. Let's connect with each other. All right. So I will say that next month, we will be coming here at 8 p.m. the third Wednesday of the month. This is what we sign up for to come meet together every single month. So we'll be looking forward to having you next month, same time, same place, and we'll send more information around what to expect next month. So from this community and from all the volunteers that are working very hard behind the scene. I want to commend them because this is not going to be possible without their support, without working so hard for it. Everything seems to go seamlessly when we show up, but there is a lot of work that is done behind the scenes. So I want to say, I see what you do, collating the questions, sharing the screens, introduction of the community, and also making sure that things go in well. I want to say thank you for all you do, and for every member of the community as well. We value your insight. We that value your ideas. Keep coming, and keep supporting. I think what I'll do is I will close the meeting at the moment, and I will say we will see you next month when we bring another session to you. Until then, keep delivering, keep swinging, and don't forget, ALAFIA, ALAFIA, ALAFIA. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.
Uh,